Okay, so I'm going to go over this problem to try to help you solve these problems on this page. So I'm recording this on my phone a little bit differently, so hopefully it works out. What I want you to do when you see these problems is think of them as two separate problems. So we have the problem on the left and we have the problem on the right. So we're not going to get overwhelmed. It's just two easy problems combined into one, so it looks a lot scarier. We're going to follow these three steps right here. First, distribute, combine like terms, and then finally solve for x. One thing that I would put right before this is I like to change all of my subtraction signs to adding a negative. So remember that subtraction is the same thing as adding a negative. So I like to go through and rewrite it without any subtraction signs because it's easier for me to solve. So instead of 17 minus, I'm going to put 17 plus a negative 5. 2x instead of minus 9, I'm going to put plus a negative 9. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Remember, this is negative 1. There's a 1 right here. Plus 10, plus 4. I didn't have to change any on this side because there wasn't any subtraction. There's just negative. Okay, so the first step is to distribute. So I'm going to leave my 17 alone. I'm going to distribute this negative 5. When negative 5 goes to 2x, it becomes negative 10x plus negative 5 goes to negative 9 becomes 45. That's why I like these, because these are just pluses. So instead of having minuses and you have to figure out is it a minus and a negative or whatever, it's easier to keep them all at addition. I'm going to distribute this negative 1. So when negative 1 goes to negative 6x, it becomes 6x. Plus, when negative 1 goes to 10, it becomes negative 10, and then I'm going to keep my 4. The second step is to combine any like terms. So on this side alone, all I have is 17 and 45, and those can be combined to 62. So I have negative 10x plus 62. On this side, I have 6x, and then I have negative 10 and 4 that can be combined to give me a negative 6. Now I'm going to solve for x. The first step in solving for x or any variable is to get that variable on one side. So if you see here, we have x on the left and x on the right. So I'm going to try to get rid of any negatives because they're harder to work with. So instead of bringing this over here and adding to my negatives, I'm going to get rid of this negative. So I'm going to cancel that out. So negative 10 plus 10, and then I do that on this side. So basically I've canceled it out on this side and just brought it over to this side. So those cancel out. I'm left with 62. 6x plus 10x is 16x plus negative 6. So this should look really easy now. Now this is a two-step equation. So in order to get rid of the negative 6, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Those cancel out. 62 plus 6 is 68 equals 16x. This is 16 times x, so in order to get rid of that, I'm going to divide by 16 on both sides. 68 divided by 16 is 4.25. It's okay that we got a decimal. It's okay if we get a fraction. It's okay if we get a really weird fraction or a really weird decimal. And then on this side, those cancel out to get x. What you need to do at this point is put 4.25 back into the original equation and make sure that both sides equal each other. If they do, you know you got the right answer. This is called a one solution. So if you get one number equaling that letter, that variable, then that's a one solution equation. So let me go over the steps. I changed all my subtraction to adding a negative. I distributed. I combined any like terms, and then I got all my x's to one side, and then I used the inverse operation to start getting rid of things that were on the same side with my x, and finally got down to one answer. So up here I would put change subtraction to adding a negative. That would be a helpful step. And then maybe here I would say get variables to one side. Okay, watch that again if that doesn't make sense, and then if you still have questions, ask me in class.